Hey everybody, it's Jonah Lupton back again with another episode of the Startup Sense podcast. Thanks for listening. We got a great guest for you today. It is Timo Rein. He is the co-founder of Pipedrive. Pipedrive is a company that's raised about $14.2 million from a bunch of really good investors. They got over 100 employees and they're absolutely crushing it. Timo, how are you today?
Thanks, Jonah. Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, where are you calling us from?
I'm actually in Redwood City, California. I've been living here for the last 3.5 years.
Oh, nice. Okay. Is the company based in New York?
Well, the company actually is based in three different sort of major locations right now. Let's say two: New York and Tallinn, Estonia. The bulk of the company is in Tallinn, Estonia.
Okay. So I assume that's where a lot of the dev and engineering team is.
Correct.
Okay. So before we talk about Pipedrive, do you just want to give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I was one of the people that got into the field of sales quite early on in my life, and I did that. However, feeling that this is not for me, so I was sort of clearly in my head not a salesperson, but I ended up with two other partners, and then we ran a sales consulting and sales training business for about 12 years. And then in 2010, we decided with the one of the other partners there to team up to found Pipedrive, and this is what we've been doing now for the past 6 years, and that's pretty much me in a very pragmatic overview.
Cool. So tell us about Pipedrive and what was the problem that you guys wanted to solve here?
Yeah, one thing we did, in our business, obviously, was to help. In our business before Pipedrive was to help other people sell better. That's the whole point of having a sales consultancy, a training business. And we were exposed to a lot of problems that different companies had, how when they tried to improve their numbers. And at the same time, what we also did was we wanted to be really good at in our own sales efforts, and so we used a lot of different ways of different tools and different ways of getting better, and we use software, and we saw our you know customers use software. And the problem that we noticed, and that sort of led us to believe that there's a sort of hole in the market, was that when you try to use it from a salesperson's perspective, you always kind of felt that this is not designed for you. And that's at least that was what we felt in the beginning. We didn't feel immediately that this is universal, but we at first you kind of go like, oh, it's just me, right? Maybe I'm just weird. But as we started noticing a lot of the same type of feedback from our customers in this consultancy business, then we just thought that maybe there's something missing. And the more we looked into this, we realized that there's quite a good gap there, because it's really difficult to build products for just salesperson first, because the business normally operates in a way that the ultimate decision maker in a business is somewhere more up, like a manager level, right?
Right.
So I realized that this is probably a difficult thing to do, but it's probably a very worthwhile thing to do, because there's not a product that helps salespeople as much as we needed help.
Totally agree. I mean, I used to be in the investment business, big part of that was sales. So I always had a pipeline of prospective clients and I was trying to manage it myself on Excel. And then I tried to transition to, Salesforce. And it just, they both felt kind of clunky, not very user friendly. And I will say to the listeners, listening to this episode, you got to check out Pipedrive. The web address is pipedrive.com. The software they've built is absolutely beautiful. It's easy to use. It's fun. In any industry, if sales is part of your job, then Pipedrive needs to be one of the tools that you guys use on a daily basis. It really will make you more productive and efficient. So, and I'm not
Thank,
just
thank
giving
you
a
for your good words,
plug.
John.
No, I'm being totally serious. Like I said in kind of the pre-call, whenever I ask entrepreneurs, what's some of your favorite software that you use to help run your business better, Slack is always one of them, email is always one of them, and Pipedrive is usually one of them. So, you guys you're doing a lot of good things for the startups out there. So I appreciate it.
Great to hear this. And
Talk
by
to us
the way,
about.
maybe I can just share a quick story that I just remembered. I mean, when we used software. We did use probably the best in the world, and try to use them. Target, Act early 2000s, and then Microsoft Dynamics was already out. Salesforce was coming, and what we realized was that we always, when sales was concerned, we always went back to sort of these analog tools of the world, using post-it notes on the wall, exactly to do what you just described. Just to manage this sales pipeline, to put it in front of us, and to understand where we are and what we need to do next. And we just wanted to transform that experience into a software business, and also you use just simple tools like Excel, spreadsheets, just to manage the forecast, because it gives you so much if you have these sort of limits, but it gives you so much if you're creative and you want to see how the months ahead of you kind of shape up. And that's where we realized that something is missing that should be built.
So talk to us about the beginning when you started building this. At what point did you go? Did you get accepted into the AngelPad accelerator? That's based in San Francisco. I think that's your traditional 3-month program with the demo day. You want to just talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll also give you a little bit of time as we decided to go in there, because that was also crucial. We did acquire our first 10 customers or so as a result of about 7 months of being in closed beta, and emailing, I think in total about 500 to 600 companies that we together as founders had, Rolodex, let's put it that way.
What
And
types of
then,
companies were you
yeah,
targeting?
sorry?
What types of companies were you targeting? Any specific industry or specific size?
No. It was mostly where we knew. I mean, we built Pipedrive to be the tool to organize and manage the sales of high value products and services, where managing your sales pipeline is actually critical. So we looked at the sort of businesses that we knew had this sort of business model, and regardless of their industry, really, because we didn't think that would matter that much. So we just, emailed these contacts, and I think we got about 30 to 40 of these companies to actually use it. And then out of them, about 10 ended up being our first paying customers, which we were extremely happy about. And at the same time, we didn't know much as to how to sort of get the next 10 or next 20 or 100. But we started working and figuring these things out. And so it took us, I think, about 4 or 5 months to get to about 80 in total. And that was the time where we started slowly but surely running also out of our initial money. And that's where we started looking quite a bit earlier though, but we were looking at different incubators at the time, like 500 startups and Techstars and Y Combinator, and then also coming to San Francisco, finding out about AngelPad. And yeah, we were happy to see that we were accepted into AngelPad, and I think the biggest thing for me, I still do remember the questions early on from these people in accelerators, was that here I was with one other co-founder, and we're just trying to see if these guys would accept us into their accelerator, and then we were kind of happy that we had about close to 100 customers already, very small ones, but like 100. And then they start asking questions like, okay guys, but how do you think you're going to get you've been able to get like 100 in 5 or 6 months. How do you think you can get the 100 like in a month? And as soon as they asked this sort of question, at first I was like, I mean, how do you get them? I mean, I don't know. We've been barely making like this didn't happen in about 5 or 6 months. You should tell me or something. But then I realized that just the power of that question was so amazingly big, that you just have to have the right question in front of you at that very moment, and then you start to look for answers. And that's what I realized that this sort of accelerated time would probably be about, is that you will probably have new questions that you didn't have before. Maybe you didn't have the courage to ask them, and then you have people just expecting you to find these answers from somewhere. So I think overall, if you ask about like overall experience, that was probably like the biggest thing for me from incubator. and AngelPad overall was a major help because it was really focused on B2B companies, and it was a very very small group of companies that were in the batch.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the true value of the accelerator. They help you think big, and then they help you kind of map out the roadmap or the strategy to get there. And obviously, at the end of this, you get to present to some investors, hopefully raise some money, and then get the capital that you need to probably execute on part of that strategy. So, when did you guys raise money? I'm sure AngelPad probably gave you guys a little bit of a seed, some seed capital. And then when did you guys start raising, the bulk of your seed round or your A round?
Yeah, AngelPad came with obviously the biggest value was the mentorship and the network. But we didn't raise money immediately after the demo day. I think some companies do, uh, and some companies don't. And then we realized that we have to make sure that we either figure out a way to being, cash flow positive for the time being, so that we can continue until we find, the type of investors that would want to invest and we would like to, have as investors. And that was a conscious decision right after when we realized that we were not immediately able to raise more money, and then just, stayed at a very fixed budget, let's put it, or expense budget for about 4 or 5 months at least, and then started talking to investors again, and they were quite intrigued by the fact that we were in cash flow positive situation, and sort of that helped us to raise the money. So that was probably like a year and a half after we had started, and about less than a year as we started in AngelPad, that we sort of raised from different small VCs and some angels in 2012. And I wouldn't say that was the first, because AngelPad obviously was the time when we received our first investor money, but that was more like a serious effort, even though things were tough and we weren't able to raise immediately. And yeah, that was the early going.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a different strategy than most take. Most startups come out of the accelerator, they try to grab as much money as they can, probably not at the most optimal valuation versus you guys, you continue to grow, scale, keep it lean, and then you probably go out and raise money. And I'm guessing, maybe that helped you keep a little bit more equity for the team. So,
Maybe, yeah. And I think people are different in that respect. And I've seen different founder types of people. And I think one of the things to recognize about everybody, I mean, if anybody's thinking about building a business, is that where you think your strengths are. And we knew that we had a pretty strong understanding of what it means to build a business, having already built at least one business for about 10 to 12 years. So we realized going into this that we are quite strong at going with it, and keeping the pace, and being quite persevere. So we didn't go into the tech world with an understanding of just we need to build something, and if it doesn't fly in 12 to 18 months, then we should just drop it. We were never thinking that we should drop it if it doesn't get more investor money in about 12 or 18 months in, right? So we knew that we were in for the long haul. It may take us 5, 10, 15 years to build the whole thing to the point where we actually can be very happy about it. And so it sort of felt natural that if the investor money wasn't coming in, then we focus on building the value, and getting the sort of like a customer money, right? So we could fund or fuel our expenses and fund our business on our own. So I think people are different, and I don't think there's a one right way. There's so many companies which are built completely without any sort of VCs involved, as you know.
right, absolutely. Yeah, the majority of businesses are not VC backed.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of the Lupton Group and host of the Startup Sense podcast. Are you struggling to find the right tech team to build your company's website or mobile app? Maybe you've developed a product but need help with your go-to-market strategy, including branding and marketing. Well, stop worrying, because my team at the Lupton Group can assist you with all of those needs. We specialize in helping entrepreneurs and startups of all sizes launch and grow their businesses. For a free consultation, you can email me at jonahlupton@gmail.com or visit our website at luptongroup.co.
Talk to us about what the customer acquisition strategy was post AngelPad, and then what it is today. How do you acquire most of your customers? Is it online through different paid marketing channels? Is it SEO? Is it through word of mouth? Is it from referrals? Conferences? What have you guys found to be the most successful?
Quite honestly, we've seen that there's no stronger movement than the one of people willingly telling somebody else that, hey, I've been using this, I really like it, and sort of word of mouth has carried us a whole lot. During the years. Early on, we didn't obviously have that experience, but we had a pretty good uh, sense that if we put a product in the market, make sure that the SEO is good, and we put it in the hands of important people. I mean, people like you, for example, that have influence, that have followers, and we did that at first. Not so much with people who had podcast shows, but just people who had investor networks, and they were quite influential when they said something that they use something that then a lot of people would pick it up. Just trying to get the early word around, but focus was mostly on making the product as good as we can get it, and just helping the self-serve business to take off. And we I think that the business model that we were very excited about, which was a global self-serving business, also helped the word of mouth go around, because we did everything to remove the roadblocks of customers finding it, and then becoming users, and so that has carried us throughout these years, actually, even though we've tried a lot of different acquisition channels by now, paid marketing, content marketing, all the different
Did any
things.
of them
But
did any of them work better than the rest? I mean, would you say that, Facebook, I mean, I don't think Facebook ads necessarily would work, but Google ads or LinkedIn ads, or SEO or content, or did you have a good conversion rate in any of those?
we've had a decent conversion rate from the channels that we've been testing. But the only problem is that we have a product which is at a price point where you can't use a lot of marketing dollars,
Right, right.
unless
It's a
you really want to
it's a
go on
very affordable product. Like, I hope
yeah,
the listeners
yeah.
know that it's extremely affordable. Almost too cheap. Like, you guys, I think you guys should almost raise the price. I know that's probably not part of the strategy, but you really do get a lot of value for the price. I will say that.
Yeah, so it starts around $12 per seat and goes up to 25, and so with that, you don't get a lot of chances to put a lot of money into paid marketing, as much, maybe. But yeah, the problem is that this whole industry that I think goes under the umbrella term of CRM is a very sort of expensive marketing industry, and paid marketing is not cheap there. So we've we've seen really good results there, but at the same time, we're quite attentive as far as where to put the most effort, and then sort of helping the word of mouth happen has been more or less the key.
Yeah, but like you said, word of mouth and customer referrals is definitely the most cost-effective way to grow.
Yes.
What's been the biggest challenge for the company since you started? You guys started in what, 2010 or 2011?
Yeah, we founded the company in 2010 in June, and then we went to with the product came out in February 2011. Um, challenges.
I'm sure
I think some
there's
of the
probably been too
challenges we
many, right?
created.
It's
Sorry.
hard to narrow it down.
Um, I think we created our own challenges a lot. First of all, the challenge of just getting customers without anybody actually selling this, right? So that was the first challenge, and we quite liked it, and sort of, but that has always been a challenge of how do you keep that going, and how do you find that you know th- movement regardless of where you are in the world, because as you said quite rightly, that the product might feel cheap when you look at it from the eyes of a US consumer or business person, but then again, there are so many different regions in the world where price sensitivity is absolutely different. and so it's when you have customers in Brazil or India, I mean, it's just a very different ballpark. And how do you make sure that you still have traction? So we created that challenge for ourselves, for our marketing all the time. And I think we also internally created some challenges as we so wanted the help from US incubators at that time, the different ones that we could find and we really liked because, there's so much help from people who've helped a lot of companies like that. What it did for us was that it put our company, it really did split the company between continents, right? So while you have an office which is 7 to 10 hours away from another office as far as time zone goes, it's just a major challenge right there. So I mean, for me, I'm 10 hours away. I've been 10 hours away for biggest portion of my history in Pipedrive from our office in Tallinn, which is the biggest one. And what that does is that requires me personally, for example, to have calls which start 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning with the team, with different teams, and that I start from a personal challenge there. So this is quite challenging, but at the same time, it's a challenge for everybody because as you have teams and people who want to communicate so far apart, normally long distance relationships don't last, right? And making sure that we can do this, finding the right tools, finding the right processes, figuring out how that could be helpful, even though it's a challenge. I mean, that's been tricky. I mean, at least come to mind first.
Yeah, I mean, having a distributed team, or having remote people does get tricky. Do you guys have, I assume, at least one or two founders are over in Estonia?
Yeah, we have. We started with 5 founders. We have 4 active co-founders still working, and we do have in Tallinn. I'm in the US. So yeah, we figured out the balance as we moved along, but we've always shifted it a little bit.
And what's the main reason for having engineers in Estonia? I assume it's the cost that you have to pay them is significantly lower than what you would have to pay someone in San Francisco.
You could argue that when you look at it from here, but we didn't know any better because that's where we started the company. And you start it, and then you need to find people. You find people, and sort of, yeah. I mean, when you look at it from a US perspective, there's a definite cost advantage that way. But at the same time, these people are just very good. I mean, we've had a good tech scene. I think ever since Skype has had their technological founders came from Estonia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And and then they have their office. They've had their office there from when they started, and it's a very large pool of really good people, either engineers or product managers, or so there are many reasons for us doing it that way.
Is there a university over there that's training them, or are these people mostly just self-taught?
I think both. More universities have made sure that they sort of quote unquote produce these sort of people as well. But a lot of them have just looked around and seen so many different startups being built and thinking that they should learn it and just becoming engineers.
Right. I mean, it's obviously a financially rewarding career path. So I mean, I don't know what other economic opportunities are over there, but if you're a good developer in almost any country, you can find employment somewhere or start your own company. Definitely one of the the more secure careers out there, it seems. Talk to us about kind of the current client base. How many clients you work with. What the average number of seats is at each one of those customers. Maybe what the biggest company you work with is. Any numbers you can share with us around those?
Yeah, absolutely. The nature of our customers is that they're the type of companies that are either starting out, which means that they have just maybe one user or 2 users, just you and me, right, or just you, and you want to get it off the ground, and you want to manage your sales pipeline, the early one that you have, or even indeed you want to manage your investor relationships and close these early funds or funding rounds. And so that's where we start, and then we have quite a good number, customers who have 5 to 10 people using the tool, so you could call it like a proper team tool. And then also customers that have tens and hundreds of users. Most of them are the ones that are small, so that means that our average user number per company is around 4. So that gives you an idea of how small these companies are when you look at them in total. And we've been able to, get to the numbers where we're serving more than 30,000 different, businesses around the world.
It's a big number.
In different, and yeah, thanks. And in different, verticals, and in different industries, and in different regions, indeed. So it doesn't really matter if you want to pick, Pipedrive up, for example, in Brazil. It speaks to you the same way that it does, over here in US, in your own language, and so it's been localized to the major languages as well. So small customers, but around the world, but definitely in businesses which require a heavy focus on making sure that these high value products and services that they are trying to sell, that the pipelines are really full, and they are full of movement, and then that's where we come to help.
So in terms of customer growth, those are some incredible numbers. So it took you, what, 6-7 months to get your first 100 customers, right?
Right.
And then what do you think you finished the first year at in terms of total customers?
About 600.
And then second year,
that was the first. Sorry?
And then what about second year?
That's where I kind of black out a bit.
But first year you had 600 customers, and then now just a few years later you're at 30,000 customers.
Yeah, again, when you compare it like that, you understand that there's been a good of sort of opportunity, and also quite a good execution and a bit of luck and everything that goes with it. But we've been able to double our numbers, basically pretty much going from year to year. I do remember that when we started in, these are the numbers I remember. So beginning of March in 2011, it was just pretty much the first full month. Up until August, I think we got to about 85 paying customers, and then by the end of that first year, at around 600. That was 2011. But the first full year into this, business, getting to March 2012, that's where we celebrated the first bigger milestone for us, which was 1,000 customers, and ever since we've been trying to make sure that we do the job really well.
Amazing. I love that kind of growth. Talk to us about, when you and I did the pre-call, we touched on this a little bit, and I think as an entrepreneur, when you're building software, before you show it to the world and start talking to potential customers, you want it to, just look perfect, work perfect. What was that a struggle for you guys in the beginning? Like, at what point did you decide, like, okay, we built it, we just got to get it out there and get some feedback, versus, nope, it's got to be perfect, everything's got to work, just the way we want it to? Take us through that struggle.
I know. I'm so thankful for us having 5 founders to start with. Some people have said that you just have too many. You probably, especially early on, you probably just argue. You don't get anything done, all these sort of things. We try to use it for our advantage. And I think that the first time we did it, at least personally, I feel that way, was that I didn't feel that the product was ready. There was no feeling inside of me that you could go to market with a product which just has, one view of your deals, and you can pretty much dive into your specific deal, and that's pretty much it. And but luckily we had founders who had a lot of technology experience that we were able to find in 2010, when we sort of got the core group together. And in a way, they were a bit more ignorant about what the sales world needed, but at the same time, what they were really good at and then really sensitive about was that we should get quick feedback on things that we've done. And so for me, it was a big struggle because after 2 months of coding, we had something there, which I liked it. I was happy to see that what we had envisioned was now in a software and it was working. So that was great. But that was I don't know, it's like 1/100th of the vision that we had.
Right.
And I don't know how long I would have gone on without putting the product in market, but they said after 2 months, okay, if it's feels like it's minimum viable product, we should put it in the hands of some people, get a sense of whether the direction is right. And I remember this sort of feeling that I just want to. I'm ashamed to do this because this is not professional. Sort of that's how I felt. But they said, we'll stay in closed beta for probably 5 or 6 months anyway, and we'll continue building the product. So that's not a problem. But at least at the same time, we have quite a bit of feedback coming from companies that we actually do know. So it's not a major shame. Let's put it that way. So just went on and put the product in the market, and I was caught by surprise that so many people were looking at it and just commenting on just a few things that they wanted in addition. Whereas I was thinking that it's just I don't know, it's you wanted a bicycle, I'm giving you just one wheel basically or something. Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge there early on, and I think that the main message that I was obviously taking from this was that you can always have good ideas, but it's better if you can formalize them and make sure that you can have a product that works and show people, and then you can get things moving. Because I think that's the only way we were able to get these 10 paying customers when when we put the product already out as a price product, right? I don't think that we would have gotten these 10 or 12 early customers at all if we didn't do that.
Who do you guys typically sell into? What is it, the marketing department or the sales department? I mean, I'm guessing it's probably sales, although sometimes those departments kind of, they're tied into one another. But who is it? Who is it from a company that's normally reaching out to Pipedrive and initiating, the conversation or signing up?
Yeah, when it's a smaller group, smaller company, startup, then it's quite often the guys who found it,
Okay.
girls and guys who found it, just because they have the desire, they have the need, and then they haven't even hired anybody to do any sales work at that point. And in smaller companies, it's quite often the owner, very close people that they work with, and then just start using it, and that's how it goes. When the companies get to be larger, then that it's still it's still the people who use it. So it's always salespeople first, rather than your managers who would have a different take on maybe these sales management tools. They look at more on the reporting abilities rather than how you use it to manage your sales pipeline, for example. So it's still if it's a very large company, it could be that you have 3 or 4 or 5 salespeople picking it up simultaneously, and then we might also end up with a large customer, but it sort of goes from bottom up. So that's normally the way it goes.
Right. Like I'm wondering, I'm just thinking of some friends that I know that, run very large sales organizations, and then what the best way to connect you would be. And it's sometimes where the company is paying for all the individual seats, or are there companies out there that make this available to their employees, but the salespeople are actually paying for it themselves? Like I'm thinking maybe like, like commission only positions. Like I have friends that work in financial services companies where they don't even get a salary, they're just straight commission. So I'm wondering, and
Mhm.
sometimes in those cases, the employee that's actually paying.
Yeah, we do have these sort of let's call it unorthodox ways of people being customers. Is that they there are companies which have their own CRM systems, or ways to track the efforts and customer data, and we do have customers or people within these companies that are using Pipedrive because they want a productivity tool for themselves, and they also end up paying for this themselves. But I don't think that's a very sort of sustainable long-term model, even though that's great to see that happens, and then sometimes it takes months and years like that. So different cases exist.
Cool. I want to be conscious of your time here. I know we're probably at 30 minutes now, so just a couple more quick questions. What's the single best piece of advice you've ever gotten from anyone, whether it's an advisor or you know, a co-founder or investor?
Mm. I think the example I gave you, and then just hearing more and more, I just started picking up that you should ask better questions. Um, we get used to the questions, I think, that we ask, than just coming up with a question that is already like a question for the next level, if you know what I mean,
Right.
is quite crucial. Figuring that out what it is, I think, is important. For me, that was definitely one of the questions. I didn't ask the question of how to get 100 customers during a month, up until somebody just asked me, and I was like, oh, so if I wanted to get that number, I obviously first should ask that myself, right? So sorry.
And
So that is probably the best advice that I've gotten, is that whoever you admire and whoever you look up to, and you want to get somewhere where they are, just see what sort of questions they ask, and try to ask them, and try to find answers for your own, and that's probably the biggest and the best.
cool. Yeah, I'm sure before you guys joined AngelPad, I'm sure that the idea of having 30,000 companies and sales teams using your software someday seemed a far-fetched possibility, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We weren't even able to sort of think of these numbers. Maybe we had some kind of like a very nice dream about the future that involved maybe some other crazy numbers that everybody kind of felt that yeah it's not gonna happen. But I think having these sort of specific next step questions, which always shape your immediate actions, that was just great. By the way, one of the really great advices, or maybe not advices, but it's just like a push from our own co-founder group, came from when we were thinking. I think it was 2 months in, we had 15 to 20 customers, and we were thinking how we would want the year to end. And then we had different plans of, okay, in an Excel sheet, like we would like to get to, the lowest plan would be I don't know, like 150 customers. Like, we're very pessimistic plan. And it was something in the middle, which was about 250, 300 something. We called it like normal or something. And then we had a row which was also called like a mat plan. And the mat plan had a number of, I think, about 600 something. And we did consult other people, and then some of them said, looks like the 600 is kind of through the roof, but 150 is probably too low. You need to get more customers. So maybe that 250 is a good plan to execute, right? But we internally, the founders that we had, were so intrigued by the fact that, is there a way to get 600? And I remember that we kept that mad plan as our sort of the plan that we wanted to realize. And then I think out of that question, how to get 600, came the decisions which we took, which was somewhat crazy, is to move across the world to another country, to go through the incubator, even though we had families back home and all these sort of things. And I think that's the power of these questions, and that's how you sort of make it happen. And you don't really have the time to think about what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years time, really, even though, yeah, looking back, you can argue that way that you did.
Right. In the startup world, 4 to 5 months seems like a long time. 4 to 5 years seems like forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said,
Um,
there's so many founders who think that 4 or 5 doesn't even matter. What matters is that 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
if you could be mentored by any entrepreneur or anyone, who would it be?
That's a really tough one. Really, really tough one.
Do you have like a favorite
Um,
founder that you follow, or
I'm a weird d- dude in that sense. I think that I follow certain leaders very closely, but not all of them are from the world of technology or business. I've been following people who manage very high performing teams in sports, and specifically people like Greg Popovich. If you don't know
Yeah.
NBA basketball, then you don't know. But if you do know, then he's the leader. He's been a very long time leader of one of the most successful basketball clubs, San Antonio Spurs, for I don't know how many years, more than 15 definitely. And the same way I followed Phil Jackson as he was coaching LA Lakers and obviously Chicago Bulls before that time. And the same way I've been, because it's close here, and I've really liked the way that Steve Kerr is, running and coaching the Golden State Warriors. And I've been following them, trying to understand how they want to build things and what want to build and where's their level and standard. So even though it's completely different world, if these guys could be the guys that I could sort of pick their brains and ask about how they build their business, I mean, their organization to make it really successful, and then what it is that they look for as far as results and the whole process goes, I'd be super happy to have these guys as mentors. I mean,
Great.
that's just the way I look at it.
I wish I knew some of those guys. I can make an introduction for you, but I'm not too connected in the NBA coaching world. Does that mean that you're a big NBA basketball fan? I assume you must
Yeah,
be.
I've been through these coaches more than through other players. Actually, that's the way I just want to look at it. But I guess that they're crazy busy given the schedule, so that's like never going to happen. So I'm trying to just be on the sidelines and just see what I can take from their interviews.
And I'm sure you pay your engineers well, but probably not as well as the NBA players, right?
Oh no, that's a totally different world that
Well,
that happens here. We know.
I can't even comprehend making $18 million a year for playing basketball. That just like boggles my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Last question: favorite book or TV show?
Hmm. So the books are interesting. I have many different books which I've read and they've influenced me, and it's been like years, 10, 15, 20 years that I've picked them up, but I know how much they helped me. So for my sales years, definitely two books. One of them called The Common Denominator of Success by Albert Gray. Very small booklet. I think any salesperson who hates reading can read that. That was me. It's a very good book about creating right habits. And then also Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, which I used a lot to fix my angle, which was broken a lot. Because in sales, I've seen that quite often. What happens is that you break your angle and you don't really know if you're doing the right thing anymore. And that was a book that I realized that helped me a lot to get it fixed, almost like service. And then later on, there've been different books about different subjects, but I think one of the sales books that I liked recently was John Muir's Perfect Close, which I've started reading, and I like the way that he sort of takes it all the way. I mean, it's not about closing at the end, but it's all through the process that you're trying to manage in sales. So it's very good. TV show.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll go back.
I know as a founder, you may not have much time to watch TV, but if you do, what is your go-to show?
Hmm. Right now, there's actually a number of them. Years back, I really liked. I like UK and British humor a lot. So there was a show that most people don't know about, which is called Green Wing. They produced two seasons, but that was crazy good for my taste. And then when I look at the current shows that are running, then I quite like the Man in the High Castle. Which has a series coming up, and there's so there's so many. There are always good ones which you can always go to, like Friends, and just dive yourself and lose yourself in it.
Absolutely,
But
man.
yeah, true. I don't have a ton of time
Friends is my
to do that.
go-to.
Yeah,
I'm a diehard Friends guy.
always a good mood right after you go through it. It's almost again like a kind of therapy.
It's like you could see the same episode, 20 times and still laugh at all the little
Still good.
jokes. So I totally agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to thank you. The audience thanks you. For the listeners, go to pipedrive.com, sign up for a free trial. You'll see kind of firsthand how easy it is to use. I guess close more sales, right? I mean, that's kind of the goal, is help people close more sales. So And if you can do that, then you'll have them as lifetime customers. So, well, thank you, Timo. I really appreciate it. Want to wish you and your company the best of luck, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Thank you, Jonah. Thanks.
Have a good one.